The promise of federal spending to create jobs and stimulate local economies has people right across this country asking right now, what did we get? So, with some answers, we have reaction now from 5 different regions, beginning with Mike Colleen from CTV Vancouver. Mike, of course, you can't think of Vancouver or British Columbia without thinking of the high cost of housing, a major concern for the people there. So how is this budget going to address those concerns?
Well, you know, Lisa, I think if people were looking for this budget to address the sky-high real estate prices here in Metro Vancouver and elsewhere, they may well be disappointed. There are no new incentives for new home buyers, but at the same time, there are no disincentives for existing homeowners who've seen the equity in their properties just go crazy over the last few years. So they may see that as a good thing, that there's nothing in there. But what there is $500,000 to go to Stats Canada to look at a way to gather data on foreign investment in markets across the country, particularly here in Vancouver and Toronto. It's been a very big issue with respect to foreign speculation. In terms of affordable housing, big news there in the budget, promising to double the investment to $504 million over 2 years for new affordable housing units, also fix up and renovate existing housing units, something that was very important in this city and elsewhere. Also, there's over $200 million pledged over the next couple of years to build and repair seniors' affordable housing, Lisa, something that cities right across the country have been demanding from the federal government for a very long time.
They may have wanted more than just $500,000 going to Stats Canada to study that foreign ownership, but very interesting. Thanks for that, Mike. Now let's go over to Calgary, and Tara Nelson is there. Tara, Alberta's economy is reeling from this oil slump. Is there any real help in this budget?
A little bit, Lisa. Alberta has said that it needs 3 very specific things. The first thing it needs is to be able to get its oil to Tidewater. There was no mention of pipelines in this budget. I don't think anybody expected it to be in this budget, so that's okay. But the other 2 things it then needs while the pipeline issue is being worked out, first of all, is infrastructure money. And Alberta Premier Rachel Notley said last week she wanted to see $1 billion in infrastructure money in this budget. Ottawa has committed almost $12 billion over 5 years, but from what I can see, it's not broken down regionally, so it's unclear how much of that and how soon Alberta will see that money. The province told me just a couple of days ago that it has a list of projects that are ready to go worth $1.7 billion. Most of them are transportation related. So certainly as soon as the money can start flowing on those, that will start to stimulate the economy. That will start to get people back to work. And that takes us to the third item that the Premier really wanted to see, and that was reforms to employment insurance. There have been tens of thousands of Albertans who've lost jobs here in the last year. Many of them have had difficulty getting access to EI benefits. So these changes mean that they will be able to access them quicker and for longer, and that's going to make a very big difference to the province right now.
Okay, great synopsis, Tara. Thank you for that. And we're going to speak to Premier Rachel Notley coming up shortly and get her direct reaction. But first, we're going to head east. Paul Bliss of CTV Toronto is at the Ontario Ledge. Paul, what's the read there where, of course, today I know that you're juggling a lot of breaking news, including the death of Rob Ford?
Yeah, that's right, Lisa. The death of Rob Ford, the former mayor of Toronto, was announced by the Premier in the middle of question period here today. It rattled a lot of the MPPs, but of course everyone in the legislature here looking to see what Ottawa was going to do, expecting quite a bit. Kathleen Wynne, Ontario's Premier, campaigned on behalf of Justin Trudeau, so a lot of people thought he owed her and might pay it off. So what we're seeing here is certainly the money for transit in Toronto is going to help. The money for infrastructure, Ontario is going to get a good cut of that, but it's nowhere near what this province needs. There's an infrastructure deficit, as was mentioned earlier, of $120 billion across the province. Across the country, rather, much of that here in the province of Ontario. So the Wynne government here in Ontario is struggling to balance the budget, promising to do that by next year. And this government in Ottawa, of course, is going in another direction. There was one other thing that Ontario really wanted to see: money for housing, specific money for affordable housing. There are literally affordable housing units crumbling around families right now. So I think that might be a bit of a disappointment. You won't hear it voiced by the government. They were also looking for energy rebate retrofits to help homeowners replace furnaces and windows, but that didn't come either. Still a long list of things they want from Ontario. Lisa?
Okay, Paul, thanks for that. Okay. There is the $111.8 million to help 61 cities tackle the challenge of homelessness. We'll talk about that later, but I want to go to Montreal now, and Paul Karwatsky with CTV Montreal. Paul, you're at City Hall. You don't have have to go too far to see some pretty major crumbling infrastructure. How is this budget going to go over in Quebec?
Well, Montrealers have been waiting for this one. You know, Mayor Denis Coderre wasn't shy to play up his positive relationship with Justin Trudeau over the course of the election campaign. So Montrealers have been waiting to see what concrete things might come of that. Quebecers have been under austerity for 2 years, Lisa. So obviously Quebecers were aching to see some goodies. And while some positive spending infrastructure news in this budget for Quebec and Montreal, perhaps not enough as part of that public infrastructure fund, Quebec will see a part of that $3.4 billion slated for transit infrastructure upgrades. Quebec claims about 28% of national transit ridership, so the province will get about $920 million from that national transit fund. So transit was the key word. This is what the mayor, this is what Quebecers wanted. Some of that money could very well go to the much touted new train to the Montreal airport and to the West Island. There was some reference to that, no specific reference to that metro extension into the east of Montreal, into francophone communities, something the PQ has touted as very important. So some infrastructure spending there, some positive transit news, but perhaps not enough spending in this Liberal spending budget for Quebec and Montreal. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Paul. Now we're going to go to Halifax. Steve Murphy, CTV Atlantic Canada. Steve, how is the financial plan going to be received where you are, especially on defense issues and calls for changes to EI?
Well, as you well know, Lisa, defense spending is very important here in Atlantic Canada, particularly in Halifax. So the top line, no increase in defense spending, no money for new weapons and so on. This will have some effect on us. I think a lot of people will be waiting to have a look at the fine print to see whether there is any effect on the shipbuilding program, which is underway at the Halifax shipyard. That's a very large infrastructure project that's already underway. We'll want to parse the budget details for that. Interesting to note, there are some interesting defense infrastructure projects being announced here, about $200 million for new jetties and airfields and hangars. I see some money for armories as well. That's the reserves in particular. $50 million for military housing. And it's important, too, that there's a big moral victory here for the veterans. You'll remember in the last campaign, the Anybody But Harper movement really began with a gentleman in Sydney, Nova Scotia, complaining about the closure of that DVA office. Well, his DVA office there in Sydney, the one in Charlottetown, and in 8 other locations across the country being reopened, a big moral victory for veterans. I think, all in all, Lisa, lots of goodwill for the Liberals here in the East Coast. As you know, 4 Liberal premiers, 32 Liberal members of Parliament. Even the Mayor of Halifax is a former Liberal MP, and they're all anxious to get their hands on that infrastructure cash.
They sure are, and they were all expecting a lot on October 19th, so we're going to get some reaction from the Nova Scotia Premier also coming up. Thanks so much to all of our anchors across the country for the snapshot of what people in this country actually want.